Welcome to this new video on Forza Horizon 5. With the game's arrival on PlayStation 5, I wanted to update, in this video, the list of the most powerful cars in each performance category, whether it's on road or off-road. I think this video can be useful for all players. Whether you're one of these new players or a more experienced player who's had the game for a while, that way, you'll really know which cars are currently the fastest in the game. Knowing, however, that I think this list won't change much anymore. After the PlayStation 5 version release, there shouldn't be many more changes to the game. Since there won't be too many new cars, the developers are working more on Forza Horizon 6 and Fable than on adding new cars to Horizon 5. Obviously, if this meta changes. Or if you have other cars to recommend in the different performance categories we're going to talk about today, feel free to put the names of those models in the comments. And maybe also mention the names of tuners so you can share the best setups too. It will always be useful for future players who come by, whether they're experienced or not. Oh yes, let me clarify something. We're going to talk about categories B, A, S1, and S2. We're not going to talk about categories C, D, and X. For one simple reason, categories C, D, and X are either not played or barely played in multiplayer. So there's really no point in knowing the meta for those categories. Category X is special. It's the fastest cars in the game. I'll discuss it in another video as it may still interest you. If you're setting records, if you're doing speed traps, even if you're just doing multiplayer races with the fastest cars. The most popular multiplayer categories are B, A, S1, and S2. Let's begin with the dirt category. Of course, we'll find the Sierra 700R, which is by far the best vehicle in this category. It's very easy to handle with excellent acceleration. In essence, this vehicle is designed for off-roading from the start. The suspension responds really well, it's got a great size, and it's ideal for this category. The Sierra 700R is only available as a reward, selection, or festival vehicle, so it's not obtainable year-round. As of this video, it can be unlocked. This vehicle, at 160 points, is one of the rarest and most sought-after in the game due to its overpowered attributes in these categories. Since it can't be obtained normally, I'll show you some alternatives you can use in these categories. You can use the Renault 4L, which is actually very good. You can get it for free through the barn find system. So, this car is a little bit special. To get it, you'll need to buy the house that's here. To get the barn find rumor. And the barn find will be, I believe, here. That's how you get the 4L, a car that everyone can obtain, despite not being available for purchase at dealerships. Next, there's the Jeep Civilian Jeep 5 Renegade, which you can buy at the dealership for 60,000 credits. The Ford F100 is one of the barn finds in the game. You'll get it by progressing through the story. You can also buy the International Scout 800 for 40,000 credits at the dealership. For B-Class road racing, I have multiple car suggestions because there are various playstyles in this class. So, let's say that if you're really looking for a good car in any situation, a car that's really going to get the job done, and is also well-balanced in acceleration, speed, and handling. For example, you can get the Honda S2000 from 2003 in B-Class, a car you can buy at the dealership for $25,000. And who? On top of that, I think that's really just a bonus because in competitive play, we don't really care about that. But it looks great, really. It's a very beautiful car, and on top of that, it sounds good too. So that's really, let's say, the answer to category B, let's say balanced. After that, there are two other alternatives. You're going to have the Sierra 700R, which we just talked about in the category B races. On the road, where what will really matter is acceleration and handling, where you don't necessarily need a high top speed or strong high-speed handling. And you're going to have the Holden Tirana in category B. It's a power build, so you have the power build with the Holden Tirana. The power builds are the opposite of the Sierra 700R. These are going to be cars that are really optimized to go very fast in a straight line and have a lot of acceleration. There are some completely crazy settings on the Holden Tirana that allow you to have 1500 horsepower. For a car in category B, it's really the champion in that area. It's unbeatable in acceleration. In those categories, we're going to move on to category A. So, first, off-road. With a car that is, in this case, completely overpowered and really above all the competition. It's the Hot Wheels Bone Shaker that you see here, a vehicle you can buy at the dealership for 150,000 credits. It's completely overpowered. Off-road handling doesn't get any simpler than that. It feels like I'm driving on asphalt, that's how overpowered it is. This vehicle was so overpowered, in fact, back in the days of Forza Horizon 4, that the developers actually banned it from multiplayer. So that just shows you how well designed this vehicle is for off-roading. In Category A, there's an exceptional vehicle. Then, if you want some alternatives, there are still two other options. In A, you'll find either the Scoot International. We already talked about it for Category B, and it's just as good in Category A. And the Jeep Willys from 1945, which you can buy at the dealership for 40,000 credits. Which is also very, very good, maybe a little less maneuverable, but I think it's sometimes a bit better in acceleration. For the best off-road performance in A-Class, choose the right shaker. It's incredibly powerful. Next, we'll talk about the A-Class on-road, where there are also quite a few different choices. Because here, it's the same, we're going to have three archetypes. There's the power build, there's the balanced one, and there's the build that's really focused on handling. On the side of the balanced builds, there are three cars that I recommend to you. These are three cars that you can buy at the dealership. It's going to be the Nissan Skyline Gran Turismo Racer R32 that you see here, but also the R33 and the R34. It might sound silly to say, but these cars for Category A, they're really made for it in the game. So, when it comes to balanced cars, the three Skylines from the 90s are really good. Next, we'll find some off-road beasts. The Honda NSX-R Gran Turismo from 2005, which is truly exceptional, is really easy to handle. It's pretty monstrous. The only problem with the NSX-R Gran Turismo is that it's a reward, selection, festival car, so it's the same. To buy it, you need to have good timing, since it's not always available. If you don't have it, you can also use the regular Honda NSX, which is just a little bit less good, but it's still very good too. And then, on the Powerbull side, so here we're talking about cars that really focus everything on acceleration and speed. You can use the Toyota Sport. The S800, which produces over 700 horsepower in Category A, is extremely lightweight. I can't recall the exact weight, but it's impressively light. The power-to-weight ratio is insane. 710 horsepower for 580 kilograms. Knowing that here, it's the same. This car is a festival selection reward, so you can't have it all year round. But you can place some alternatives to this car that you will find at the dealership, like the Toyota Supra, for example, which is very good. We can rebalance in Category A, then we'll move on to the most played category in the game, Category S1. So here, it's the same, we'll start with off-road. And indeed, it might seem strange to you, but the Mercedes CLK Gran Turismo Racer, which originally isn't made for off-road at all. Originally, it's really a competition car for paved tracks and everything you can imagine. Well, it's very good. In S-Class, it's one of the best for off-road. It sounds strange, but actually, in the game, as long as you have the right settings and the right upgrades, you can use any supercar for off-road. But the CLK Gran Turismo Racer is very good. It's still going to cost 2 million credits, which means you won't necessarily be able to afford it at the beginning of your save. So I still suggested it. Two other more affordable cars that are also excellent in S1, though slightly less impressive than the ones mentioned. We'll find another race car that's a bit strange but still performs very well off-road. The Lola T70 at the dealership is priced at $850,000. It's more affordable than the $2 million CLK Gran Turismo Racer, but still quite expensive. And you also found the Bond Shaker, which was very good in Category A, but is also very good in Category S1. And it only costs $150,000. After that, of course, you'll have to add a few thousand credits for the upgrades. But it's very good, and it's probably the best performance-to-price ratio in S1. After the CLK Gran Turismo Racer, it's really the best, though. On the road car side in S1, there are three cars I recommend to you once again. With one set up for balance, another for acceleration, and another for handling. For a well-balanced car, I recommend the Pagani Zonda. Besides being very beautiful and producing a great sound, it is also extremely high-performing. For peak meta, an all-wheel drive setup is needed, but it's incredibly meta. However, the price is $2,100,000. $2,100,000. But as you can imagine, we're getting into high-performance categories, so the cars are getting more and more expensive. When it comes to tuning, it's more about handling and acceleration. You'll find it. The Lotus Elise Gran Turismo, one which was overpowered in Forza Horizon 4 and is still excellent in Horizon 5. It has slightly lower top speed, but it's superior on tight and general corners. That's the key takeaway. However, it's not cheap either, since it's still 1,800,000 credits. And finally, there's a car that I personally like to drive, even though it's rather Power builds may be less viable in S1 compared to other seasons. Cars in these categories need at least 600 to 700 horsepower to compete, so 1,000 horsepower is common. In the end, it's not that impressive. But we're going to find the Jaguar XJR15, which is actually a very little-known car. So, it's cool to have it in a game. On top of that, I think it looks great, and it also sounds pretty nice. And actually, in S1 you can drive it with 1,100 horsepower while still keeping pretty good handling. And above all, it has a great advantage. This car, you can actually see it for free in the game. Because the Jaguar XJR15 is a barn find reward. So, if you play through the Forza Horizon 5 story and the barn finds, you'll definitely unlock it at some point. The S2 category's meta is very competitive, similar to the B, A, and S1 categories both on and off-road. There were really a lot of cars that could be used. You could easily find alternatives if you didn't necessarily have the right model. Here, in S2, it's different. In S2, there are really 3 cars, let's say, that are above everything else. Even among those 3 cars, there are significant differences in performance. In S2 off-road, there's one car that's completely broken and absurd to play, yet it's super overpowered. It's the F1, the Hot Wheels. Back to the blade that you see here, it's monstrous, it's weird, but an F1 off-road in Forza works insanely well. However, the issue remains that this is a downloadable content car from the Hot Wheels map. Without the Hot Wheels downloadable content map, you cannot obtain this car. And that's why I suggest we quickly talk again about the Mercedes CLK Gran Turismo Racer, which is also very, very good in this performance category. It was very good in S1, and it's also very good in S2. However, it costs 2 million credits. But above all, I think it's already a little step below. And if you don't have either of those 2 cars, there's another car that's potentially usable in an off-road configuration. That would be the Porsche 911 GT1 Strassen version. Again, an old Porsche race car. By the way, I don't see it in my garage. Yes, it's quite purple, I have it in X-Class, but it's also usable in S2 for off-road. It drives a bit like the CLK Gran Turismo Racer. But for me, they're already really a notch below the bottom of To the Blade. Rest assured, veering off-road in S2 is still quite uncommon. The majority of S2 driving takes place on roads. Let's wrap up this video with the S2 road category. I must admit there's an issue with this category in the game. It's that 2/3 of the meta cars in the S2 category are downloadable content cars. We'll discuss that later in another video in the X category. Notably, among the most overpowered models, half or even 3/4 are downloadable content. But actually, in S2 in the game, there are S2 that are really broken. Those 2 cars are from the Hot Wheels pack, from the Hot Wheels map. The first one is the Hot Wheels Bad to the Blade, which I'm going to show you. In S2 off-road, it's also really good in road racing. For me, the Brabham BT62 is the best in that category. But the problem is, it's also a downloadable content. And finally, there's a third car that's not a downloadable content. The problem is that I personally believe the Mosler MT 900S is already a step below the other cars we've discussed here. So it's a very good car. It's fast and quick in a straight line with a lot of downforce, but it's very manual, which is the problem. The problem is that, well, if you put this car up against the Brabham or the Batu, the blade on a track, it still gets beaten, right? But I think that among the non-downloadable content cars, the Moskler is one of the best. The good news is that it's not too expensive since it's only 320,000 credits. The developers have somewhat made up for it on that point. In summary, we've discussed Forza Horizon 5's current meta. Remember, tuning is also important. There are also events where, occasionally, a little oddity can occur and another car performs better than the meta. But overall, if you use the cars I've shown you in this video, you really have a much better chance of winning your races against the artificial intelligence or in multiplayer than if you play cars that are not on this list. So obviously, if you know of other meta cars, put them in the comments if you have any advice to share. To new PlayStation 5 players, don't hesitate to try the game. If this video helped, please show your support by liking and subscribing. By coming to follow me on Twitch, since I do a lot of live streams on Forza Horizon with the PlayStation 5 versions. Come follow, come use your Prime if you want to support the channel for free.